What is going on? We're here with the legendary Jalen Baker, Houston-born, Houston-based, amazing vibraphonist. Welcome to the Houston Ensemble Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
It is an honor.
Oh, man, whatever. I'm super excited to be here. Thanks. It's an honor to be here.
For everybody who doesn't know, Jalen is a really amazing vibraphonist, all-around great person, just a wonderful musician to play with. And one, huge reason that we wanted to have him on the podcast was because he just put out an album, and we just want to pump up Houston artists doing cool music stuff. And I listened to the album. It was sweet. I'm going to let you talk about it here in a second. But, for everybody who doesn't know, Jalen, can you tell them what you're doing with the album and talk about the music right from the get-go?
Yeah, so it's my debut album with, I guess, it's a few different groups. Not even a few different groups. It's mostly my quartet. So with Paul Cornish, I don't know if you guys know Paul. Well, you went to school with Paul, right? Mm-hmm. Small World. Gavin Mochan, who y'all both know. Gabriel Godoy on bass, who I went to grad school with at FSU. Mm-hmm. Super talented trumpet player in New York named Gifton Jalen. Mm-hmm. And a string quartet with a violinist name. She calls herself Lady Jess. She doesn't like using her government name, apparently, so I'm not going to say it. Incredible cellist named Susan, forget her last name. Violinist Orlando Wells, and what's the last person's name? And a violist whose name escapes me right now, and it's gonna come back. Oh, Andrew, and they're all great. It was an incredible time. We recorded it up in New York. A friend of mine, Ulysses Owens, produced it, and it was a great experience. It was like really smooth. It was probably the best recording experience I've ever had at the perfect time. Yeah. But all of it's 10 tracks, 9 of my originals, and one cover of a Stevie Wonder tune.
Which one?
Love's in Need of Love Today. So from the really popular album, Songs in the Key of Life. So it's one of the 30 tracks on that album. Yeah, right. But everything else is an original of mine. All the music's, I guess, is based in one way or another. Experiences of mine, either things that I've gone through or things that I've witnessed. People going through who are close to me, and everything's very personal. Some of the tunes are as old as 4 years, and some of them are as recent as last summer. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice little, gives a nice, I guess, musical timeline of where I am or where I've been to now. Yeah. So I love how it came out.
With the string quartet, I don't think I was necessarily expecting that to be in the album immediately. And one, I loved it. It was awesome. Did you write those parts out?
Or? I did. Okay. I did. So I wrote them. So on the tunes that they're on, the tunes existed initially. So I just added the string parts, which is something I'm wanting to do more of. And I don't know. I just love the expressive nature of strings and trying to figure out how they can work hand in hand with a normal jazz quintet or quartet without them being just accompaniment. I think I got that a little bit, but still trying to figure it out because I don't want them to just kind of be added color. And even on the album there are parts where it's literally just strings playing. So that was kind of what I wanted, what I was thinking when I was adding them to the tunes that they're on.
Yeah. So it was sweet, and I feel like that's a different thing that you're not hearing. You wouldn't necessarily automatically hear that today on just a standard jazz record that's put out. You hear it sometimes.
Yeah, but not that
not
often.
often.
But you used to hear it a lot, right?
Yeah.
Back Nat King Cole and even obviously Sinatra. There was strings on almost every jazz record, at least when there was a vocalist. And it would always be, honestly, to me at least, the most ear-catching thing about some of those recordings.
Mm-hmm. Parker with strings. And
yeah,
strings.
exactly. So
that's the album.
Yeah, and I guess the person that I enjoy listening to for his work with strings the most is like Billy Childs. He's like, at least to me, in the jazz world, he's kind of the guy who does the string stuff. And he has multiple projects. I think one of them is called like Into the Light or something, and it's incredible. It's like jazz trio, so piano trio, and then the string quartet up front. There might be a harpist too.
Oh, that's cool.
But the quartet, the string quartet, is like so out front, and he can't play that music without the string quartet, and that's kind of something that I want to do. I don't want to be able to strip things away. Like either I have the quartet and I can play the music, or I just can't play that music. So, second album coming at you.
That's sweet. Okay, there's one dude in the band. I mean, there's not just one. Sorry. Gifton?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yes, Gifted.
Gifton. Okay, I heard his album like last year or something when it came out, and I was like, whoa.
Dude's incredible, right?
Whoa. That was, you know what?
Yeah.
Is it just his name?
True Design.
True Design, yeah. That's right. And that was like one of the most awesome albums that I heard last year. Just straight up jazz.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's not, like, people aren't putting out that kind of record today exactly. And what? He's from the islands.
I think the Bahamas.
The Bahamas, okay.
Don't quote me, but
and
I'm pretty sure.
For everybody who doesn't know, there's so many amazing musicians, but this is another like amazing trumpet player who is super young. He's like just turned 21 and sounds like he's 70.
Yeah.
And is like in my ear kind of sounds like Wallace Roney, kind of sounds like Wynton, kind of sounds like Miles, all mashed together. So when I saw that he was on that, I was like, dang, how do you know him?
So like connected through Ulysses, because he went to Juilliard. I think he just graduated, and Ulysses Owens is a professor there, and I was like, I brought up the idea of using Gifton because I actually, and he doesn't know this, but I actually heard him, I guess, August maybe 2019, literally right before I moved back to Houston, actually, because I was up in New York playing with Ulysses, and the bass player in that group that I was playing with had a gig at Smoke at like 1 a.m. because they do that in New York for some reason, and I was staying with him, so I had to tag along willingly, and he was playing with Gifton. It was Gifton's quintet.
Who was the bass player?
Philip Norris. Philip Norris. Yeah, he's cold, right?
Yeah.
Bad dude. And so I went and checked him out, and immediately, like the first few notes, I was like, yeah, I think I want to play with this guy. It's like everybody else on the stage was great, but there's something about him. He just has like a different approach, and I think he fit in with what we were doing on my album great, because like I guess of the 3 lead or solo instruments, piano, vibes, and trumpet, I don't think any of us really sound alike, which I love. I prefer to play with people who I know approach music a little bit differently, just because it gives layers, something different to listen to every time somebody else is playing. And dude just has a beautiful tone, like it's incredible.
Yeah. And for everybody who doesn't know Ulysses S. Owens, Jalen, explain who Ulysses is.
So Ulysses Owens, drummer extraordinaire, I guess, lives in New York. He was, I guess, most well known for his work with Christian McBride Trio, and their Blazing Speed Cherokee rendition, I guess. And also, I guess, Kurt Elling. I know he's maybe won a Grammy or something, nominated something with Kurt. And also, who's the third big one that he writes in his bio? I don't know. But he plays with everybody. Christian Sands, anybody who has, I guess, made it in the jazz world has had Ulysses as their drummer at some point, more than likely. And super nice dude. He's taken me all over the world. Super grateful for him. He's been incredibly supportive and like kind of a big brother. And when I mess up his music, he never makes me feel bad about it. So shout out to Ulysses. So great guy.
Yeah, everybody definitely need to check him out. But how about for, people who don't know you or just listening, give us the backstory. Give us like how you came up, what inspired you to play the vibes or even just get in music, what inspired you to do jazz, high school, college. Give us the whole rundown.
For sure. So I was born in Washington, D.C. Moved to Houston, I think my mom tells me like 7 months. I was about 6 or 7 months old. So I only know Houston. In this neighborhood, 3rd Ward. So raised in 3rd Ward. And I am super grateful to my parents because I guess from elementary school all the way through undergrad, I only went to performing arts school. So I went to McGregor Elementary, which is a music magnet, which is where I started playing drums, percussion. And that's really interesting. Like, they let you pick an instrument in the third grade, but when I was in kindergarten, one of my best friends, Jalen Archie, I don't know if you guys know Jalen. Okay, yeah. So me and Jalen went to elementary school together. Kindergarten, like literally known him my whole life, and he was playing better than some people play today in kindergarten, and that was like when you're 5. My mind was still blown. I was like, I don't know what he's doing, but that's what I want to do.
He's a crazy drummer.
Yeah.
He's got a specific style.
One of the best in my opinion. There's a lot of people lucky he's in Houston and not in New York right now, in my opinion. But who else? Who else went to that school? Sterling Overshawn. I don't know if you guys know Sterling.
I know Sterling.
Okay. And his younger brother Bubba.
Right.
Tehran. Yeah. They all, so
Sterling is funny.
When I was in kindergarten, so Sterling was a grade above me. Jalen Archie was in the grade with me, and Tehran was the grade below me. So I was like surrounded by these virtuoso prodigies at a really young age, and they're still to this day some of my best friends, and they've always been super encouraging to me. But I was like, I want to do what those guys are doing. So 3rd grade came and they let you pick your instrument, and I was not gonna budge on playing the drums or percussion. So, I started, when I got real serious about it, maybe about the 4th or 5th grade, I started taking lessons with Sam Dinkins III. Don't know if you guys know Sam, but
I've heard of that name.
His studio is literally up the street. It's on like Wichita.
Oh wow.
And Southmore. Well, Southmore and then Wichita.
And he plays drums?
Yeah. Percussion. Incredible hand percussionist specifically, but like when I studied with him, everything. Like he made me learn mallets, drum set, concert snare, timpani, anything you can hit.
That's cool.
So like super grateful for him for making me literally test the water on anything that you can possibly strike. So from McGregor, I then went to Johnston Middle School, which at the time the band director was Craig Green, which who's legendary.
Sounded like you said bitch.
Oh, definitely did not. But Mr. Green was legendary music jazz instructor, band director in Houston, and incredible inspiration to me because he was definitely very hard on his students, like terrifyingly so. Like he was I can't say he was mean. He was very demanding.
There's some good cats coming out of Johnston.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, Chris Dave, Eric Harlan.
Yeah.
The same names that went to PVA. Jason Moran.
They all went to this Johnston Middle School?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Paul Sterling, Matthew Kirkwood. There's just a obscene list. I think I want to say Walter Smith the third too, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Just a lot of people, and they all, especially the drummers, they all went through Mr. Green, and Mr. Green was a drummer, and he was He's from Houston. He played in the Kashmir Stage Band, which was like really big in the 70s. If you want to hear some incredibly authentic funk, you got to check out the Kashmir Stage Band.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, I don't know if any of the music, because it was a high school band.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, at Kashmir High School in, want to say 5th Ward. And one of the few, I guess, black led kind of music programs in HISD at the time. And led by the legendary Conrad Johnson, who's huge here in Houston.
Oh, cool.
And they were playing, like, for real. And Mr. Green was a drummer there when he was in high school. I think he went to North Texas and then came, and he was at Johnston for, like, at least 20 years, maybe longer, because he definitely retired as a band director there. But that was a great experience. And that's when I kind of started playing more drum set and playing in the jazz band. And I remember this very vividly because I was, like, really into, like, classical percussion at the time. And I was, like, one of the few people there who was, like, really comfortable on mallets. So when I was in jazz band, there was 3 drummers, maybe 4. Might have been 4 drummers in the jazz band, and obviously only 1 drummer can play at a time. So he made me play vibes on So What. And I remember being terrified out of my mind. And at the time, my friend Paul, who's on the album, he's a grade under me. And I remember calling him, and I was like, bro, I have no idea what to do on this song. And he was like, it's all good, bro. Like, you just play this scale, and then when I look at you, you switch to this scale.
That's fine.
Yeah. So that was like, Mr. Green, like, threw me into the deep end. And when he, in that, specifically in the jazz band, if he looked at you to solo, you better stand up and play something.
Right.
You might not play a single right note, but
Right.
I remember him yelling at us. He was like, "You're gonna stand up and play something for your parents." Because he was like, "If I point at you to solo, don't shake your head."
That's awesome.
So, hey, I mean,
That's it.
Exactly, and that's the only way to do it. You know, that's the only way to get better at it. So that was like my first experience with jazz vibes. And from Johnston, I went to HSPVA, the High School for the Performing and Visual Arts, in Montrose. It was in Montrose at the time. And I got in there playing classical percussion because that's what I thought I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to, like, play snare drum in a Philharmonic or whatever.
Oh, wow.
I was in pretty deep. And then I realized that they want me to play, like, 4-mallet marimba, and I was like, you know what? I think
That's cool too, though.
It is. It's very
Classical
cool. I
marimba.
love listening to it. I do
Yeah.
not like playing it.
Beautiful.
It is stressful. But so, like, the first 2 years at PVA, I was doing nothing but classical music, and once again, I love listening to it now. I have some really great friends who are
So grades 9, 10?
yes,
Okay.
grades 9 and 10, and then I'm trying to remember what happened. My 11th grade year, or it might have been the back end of my 10th grade year, I heard an album by Stefan Harris called Urbanist.
How did I know you were gonna say something?
And, like, Stefan has a lot of albums, but that album is kind of like a pseudo, almost like R&B funk, kind of more poppy sound for jazz.
Yeah.
And at that time, I had never heard the vibraphone in, like, that intense of a contemporary setting. Like, there's obviously Roy Ayers, who made a lot of money doing, like, R&B music, but I hadn't heard of him yet. And Stefan, you know, his band's playing, and he has Casey Benjamin singing on vocoder. And I was like, well, what is this? And he's playing marimba, and it's all just, like, real soulful, like, pentatonic scale, like, bluesy stuff. And I'm like, I gotta play this. And it was such a change of pace from playing, like, Bach inventions or whatever, which I still do, actually. I practice those all the time. But I used to get in a lot of trouble with the band director at PVA because we'd be playing and I would start just changing notes and adding grace notes and stuff in, like, an ensemble setting. He'd be like, man, he was like, Jalen, can you please just play what's there? And, which I don't think anybody should ever rewrite Bach. I was stupid to try and do so. But at the time, I was just, like, feeling and hearing something different. Especially once I heard Stefan, that's when the gloves came off completely, and I was like, man, I have to play jazz.
Stefan's a classical guy too, isn't he?
Yes, very much so.
So he came into jazz, but he's not a conventional jazz player, I don't think, because he has his own concept.
Yeah.
Big time. So.
Yeah, and it's very, very much far removed from how most people kind of teach jazz, I guess, in a more academic setting. Which is a whole nother hour conversation maybe for another time. But like, yeah, his...
No. Maybe can you tell real quick about his whole concept of visualizing and emotively thinking about harmony? And I know you know about it. So.
Yeah. So like, Stefan, the way he kind of approaches things, he doesn't necessarily... I guess, first off, when all of us have been to music school, like everything is like... scale chord theory, I guess, in the sense of this scale goes with this chord,
right.
Or these are the like 1, 3, 5, 7 are the scale degrees that you should be kind of focusing on. Stefan is, and they tell you like those are the notes that you should hit. Now they don't give you any explanation why. They just say that's what you're supposed to play. But Stefan is more from the every note in our 12-note system. Every note has an individual emotion, just out of context. So like C, out of context, has a feeling and an emotion. C sharp has a completely different one. And I've taken a lot of lessons with Stefan, and he will literally make me go through every single note in the 12-tone scale and in our chromatic scale and assign an emotion to it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then once you do it out of context, now you do it against a bass note. So now you put a drone on, and you play a C, and now what is that? What is the emotion behind the C?
The interval. What is the interval?
Yeah, and then like a C sharp is like, how does that feel against an F? Like, is it happy, sad? Yeah, because he'll use very like, I don't want to say, let's say basic like terms to describe them, just so it's not overcomplicated. And that just brings out a whole nother side of people's playing, because it's not so theoretical, it's more organic. And then once you do that, then you'll do it all by ear. He'll just play a note, and because you have assigned the emotion to that note, you're supposed to be able to hear it in a different way.
Yeah. The irony of learning the like chord scale way is that, you know, hopefully once you get out of the mathematical thinking, you can eventually almost get to the point where you're thinking about things like, well, how does this feel versus what am I going to choose? But that's one way to go about it. That's probably the long route, but what's cool about him is he goes directly into the emotions, and he says, well, this is a music that you're playing to inspire some sort of feeling, so we got to talk about that. Yeah,
and what was interesting is like the first lesson I took with him, we were identifying, I guess, all of the different iterations of like seventh chords. So like dominant 7, sharp 9, dominant 7, sharp 9, sharp 5, whatever. And he would just play them, and I would have to identify. And once again, he has everything like C7 is like regal or whatever, or C7 sharp 11 is like glittery. And so when he plays them, and I have all this stuff written down, I should show you guys one of these days. It's all in my iPad. When he plays it, he wants you to answer immediately what it is. There's no time to think, because you're just responding. You're just reacting, because that's in real time. You don't have time to sit there and think about it.
Well, kind of like if you look at a person's face and they're sad, you're going to say sad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what was really discouraging about that lesson is him telling me that like his 5-year-old son can identify all of the chords immediately because he said because his son doesn't know anything about music,
right?
And his ears haven't been tainted.
Right.
Because like you know, cool. I'm in the thick of like my undergrad, maybe my senior year, and I'm like, oh, now I'm trying to hear the bass note and like all of this, and he's like, man, don't worry about any of that. He was like, what is the emotion behind the chord? So like it's really deep, you know. It really opened me up playing wise. And I don't care so much about playing wrong notes anymore, because every note has a meaning now. So as long as you're intentional with it, it's not as important.
His son probably is going to be a beast.
Yo, more than likely. If he even decides to do music, I'd be tired of him at this point. It was like, well, of course, so get out of my face, Dad. But yeah, you know, like hearing Stefan's record and whatnot when I was my junior year in high school. was mind-blowing. And so then I reached out to a local vibraphonist in town, a couple actually, the first of which being Harry Shepard, who's a legend. And I am super grateful to Harry because, first off, he's an incredible person. Strong as an ox, has beat cancer like 36 times.
Yeah. Still
Still kicking, still playing. Like, I think he's like 95.
Yeah.
Still smoking.
Yeah, hey, man. That might be what's keeping him here. Because that's how it works sometimes. And every time I see him, he's still so nice to me. And he never gives people lessons. I just cold emailed him one day when I was in high school. He responded, and he came up to the school like 4 or 5 times and gave me lessons. Like, they were quick, but he gave me so much to work on. And once, like, he's played with legends like Coleman Hawkins. He's actually in the Ken Burns jazz documentary.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that.
He's in there for a split second playing with, like, Coleman Hawkins or somebody. So that in itself shows, like, the level that he's at.
Right.
And if you want to see him, you can see him at Brazil Cafe in Montrose.
Yeah. So I reached out to him, and I did some lessons with Harry, and then I later reached out to Chase Jordan, who's a great friend of mine, like another big brother, and he's actually a protege of Stefan. Like, they're like stupid close, like really, really close. So once I found that out, I was like, okay, well, I gotta get some of Chase. So Chase also, he grew up in Third Ward. Where he was living at the time, he was only maybe like 3 or 4 blocks from my house. So I would walk to his house to take lessons.
Oh, wow.
And he had me doing so much stuff, and he's another one. Anybody who's heard Chase play, Chase is like a locomotive. Like, he does not stop for anybody. He plays whatever he wants when he wants, and I think that was something that I really needed in high school, especially coming from a more classical background. Like, he kind of encouraged wrong notes in a sense. And, like, I remember him telling me, like, maybe the first or second lesson, he was like, man, to be honest, like, it's really not that hard, bro. Just go for it. And I didn't really know what that meant. I was like, I guess I could just move my hands and, like, pray for the best. But, and you know, there's some beauty in that too, right? You know? But that was, like, the type of thing that I needed. Because just, you know, playing a lot of classical music, as I'm sure all of us have to this point, you play what's on the page.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you can be expressive with it, and there's some people that are incredible at interpreting and putting their own spin, but, like, there's not really much. You have to play what's on the page at the end of the day. Like, the notes on the page are what's being played. So, like, Chase, just hearing him be like, man, you know, like, don't worry so much about it. Like, this is the key you're in. Go.
Right.
Like, and, like, I think that really helped me get to where I am now because that's how I kind of started playing jazz. I've never been super caught up in, like, making mistakes or whatever because I made a lot of them. And I'm just willing to, like, try something. I was telling Marwan on Monday at the jam, I was like, man, you know, when you're playing, you don't know something doesn't work until you try it. Right?
Yeah.
Because I was telling him, you know, you could change the bass notes, especially, like, if we're playing a blues. I'm like, until you know what an E sounds like at the top of the form, you don't know what it sounds like. You know, not to say that should be your first option, but I was like, you know, be ambitious and just try stuff just for the sake of knowing. Maybe not do it on the bandstand.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the practice room, why not? You know, you don't. Like you're saying, everything has an emotion. I don't personally, just right now in my head, I have no idea what an E would sound like at the top of the form of an F blues. It probably sounds terrible, but it also could sound cool. You know, I don't know.
A little crunch.
Yeah. So, you know, and that's kind of what people like Chase and Stefan and some of my other professors in undergrad and grad school kind of got reinforced in me. So I guess we're in high school now, right? I played classical music all through high school, but I kind of got to the point where I was about half and half at PVA. Wasn't necessarily playing in the ensembles, but, like, I was playing with all of my friends who are literally my biggest inspirations, like Paul, like, who I've said multiple times, Paolo Castagnoli, who's great drummer too, lives in New Orleans. Jalen Archie, obviously. James Francis, who also has an album out right now.
Mm-hmm.
Check out James's album. Jeremy Dudden. Who else was at PVA at the time? Hayden Hamilton. I don't know if you guys know Hayden. I don't know how much he plays, but he does live here in Houston. Monster, man. He was drummer. Like, monster drummer. Like, anybody who was at PVA around that time, Jalen, Jeremy, like, they'd all be like, yeah, Hayden was that guy, for sure. Trying to want to leave anybody out. Jarrard Walls. Jarrard was is an incredible saxophone player when he decides to pick it up.
Yeah.
And he's a bad dude, man. Who else? Matthew Kirkwood, who's a bassist out in LA, mostly like electric, but could really play some upright too while we were in high school. So like being around all of those dudes who definitely had it way more together than I did was super helpful, and they were always incredibly encouraging. Like they would always invite me to come play, knowing that I hadn't been playing long. Like especially James and Jalen and Paul. And I'd mess stuff up. I'd mess up heads. We'd be playing a blues. I'd come in with the melody in the middle of the form. Like they never shunned me, or they were never mean or told me like anything negative. They would just correct me, you know, and not even in a mean way. They'd be like, "Yeah, man, you know, you just came in with the melody wrong," and I'd be like, "Okay, cool." And that was just an incredible experience because, to be honest, like just being from PVA through undergrad to grad school, I still think probably the best players I ever played with were at PVA.
Oh, wow.
Which is weird to think about. There's nothing on my other two schools, but that's just the level at which those guys were playing. Like James is maybe one of the best pianists in the world right now. And Jeremy Dudden, like I didn't play much with Jeremy, but if you hear him play with like VJ Iyer, I would never want to see that music on paper. I'm sure that's super intimidating, like just hard stuff, and he's just floating over it like it's nothing. You know, and Jalen obviously, who's also super accomplished. But after PVA, I went to Columbia College, Chicago. So I was there for 4 years, and that was once again an incredible experience because the cool thing about Chicago is that it's like a smaller New York in the sense of there's a lot of different scenes. And I was fortunate enough to kind of dabble in most of them. Like my first year, all 4 years, but my freshman year I had a vibraphone instructor named Jarrett Hicks, who was the absolute best. Probably a drummer by nature, but he was also like a really good vibraphonist, and he made me do everything that I never wanted to do. Like he made me pick up 4 mallets. Like I was done with 4 mallets. Like once I got to maybe my junior year of high school, and I was like, okay, I'm playing jazz. Milt Jackson doesn't play with 4 mallets. I don't need 4 mallets. Stefan doesn't usually use 4 mallets. I don't need 4 mallets. But I got to freshman year. He was like, yeah, comp through this tune, and I could not do it. And so like my first 2 years were almost like very much just devoted to like comping and just playing chords on the instrument, which was great because I was kind of coming from the background of play whatever you want, but then getting the more harmonic aspect to everything together, like kind of molded the two worlds completely, and just being able to see everything on the instrument just helped a lot.
I don't know, that would piss me off with the 4 mallets, man.
Oh man, it's not fun. I scraped my hand up on Monday playing with them. But I mean, it's a skill, you know. Like there's guys who do it a lot better than me, but I do pride myself on the fact that
Harry's good at that shit.
Oh man,
God.
It's incredible, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And Gary Burden, obviously, there's a great vibraphonist right now named Simon. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Molier, or he's French, so I don't know how to.
I know who you're talking
but
about.
But he's ridiculous. That's my guy. He also has an album out right now. I guess this is the summer for albums. And he's incredible, but when Jarrett was making me do all that 4 mallet stuff, man, I used to try and avoid it like the plague. Like, I would be in combo, and my other professors, I don't know if they just talked about me, just like planned against me, but for some reason they all made sure that I was playing 4 mallets every second of every day. Like, just at least comping for people. I would leave mallets at home. I'd be like, yo, like, my bad. Like, I forgot 2 at home. Like, I only got 2 right now. And that only lasted so long. But eventually, you know, I got really, really comfy at it. Like, I don't shy away from it now at all. But that was like a nice, that kind of just filled my sound out a little bit. And then one of my friends, I guess my sophomore year, maybe my freshman year, named Adam Shedd, he asked me to be in this quartet that he was starting, which was like kind of like half more conventional, like modern jazz, and then half free jazz. And
wow.
That
Cool.
was the best. Actually, that was probably one of my favorite groups I've ever played in, because talk about play whatever you want. Like, he'd bring in his tunes, like the whole band would write, and he would bring in his tunes, and his tunes would have like, it would be like one stave, and just like 5 notes on it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's like, what do you do with this?
That's awesome.
You know, oh no, it was great, man. And like the guys playing in the group, this guitar player, Perry Calorie, great composer, incredible guitarist, ears for days. He was just like playing with him and listening to him comp for people was just super inspiring. Not like even any of his solo stuff. He was a great soloist. I'm someone like, I love hearing how people comp. Because that's another level of empathy, right? You just have to be able to bring somebody up, you know. At that moment, it's literally not about you at all. And he would comp his ass off. It was crazy. And the bassist, Tony Piazza, a great friend of mine, like that group was super inspiring, and I needed that, because I feel like sometimes in the jazz world we could be a little stuck up, you know, especially when it comes to like things like free jazz, because it's like, I guess it's not deemed, I don't know, real or right, I don't know, but even though people like Ornette have obviously shown that this is an incredibly valid subgenre of the genre, you know, like it's fine, and I still listen to some of that stuff today. I don't listen to a ton of it, but I respect it immensely, because you can hear when it's not done well, and you can hear when it's done incredibly well.
And also, if you actually attain a freedom in that context wherein you are physically able to capture a sound that you are hearing against whatever backdrop, that is a huge skill to have, because that is essentially what you want to have in more organized improvisation, which involves harmony and rhythm. So, and it's like what you said before, you don't want to think too much. You also, it's just not that hard. You just got to go for it. Well, that is an environment in which you're gonna seriously have to work on that. Yeah.
And Chicago, to me, probably has like the best scene for free jazz.
Seriously.
Maybe Paris. Maybe Paris. Wow. Just from like the stuff my friends have shown me. Like, I've seen the New York stuff. Like, obviously, like Tyshawn Sorry is great. But like some of the guys in Chicago, to me, are just doing just some next level stuff. And even they also, like, a lot of people don't have the scene of young people doing it. Chicago does, to me. Like, there's a saxophone player named Isaiah Collier who's really skilled. He's a great friend of mine. He's young. He's maybe about your age. So like maybe 22, he might be a little younger than you. But he blends the worlds of like playing like kind of Kenny Garrett-ish, Coltrane-ish, but also playing like the Chicago free jazz style.
That's sweet.
And it's crazy, man, because it's so authentic, it's so personal, and it's they're not just up there doing it for no reason. And the one thing I love about the free jazz guys is that there's almost no money involved in that sometimes, so they really love it. You know, like there's already not a ton of money with jazz. Yeah. So if you even want to dig even deeper into the rabbit hole of free jazz. So, but like getting to witness that against the more traditional side of the Chicago jazz scene, which is also incredible. Was great for me because I could see both worlds, and then you can kind of see the overlap that some of the musicians who were playing the free jazz and then come, you know, just destroy Cherokee, you know. And it's like, man, you know, that's the most versatile thing anybody can do is to play with restraints and then play with none whatsoever, and it still comes off the same way.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting that. You know, real quick, somebody who kind of introduced me to, I would say, free jazz in Houston was Keith Carnegie.
Oh, okay.
You know Keith Carnegie?
I know of him.
Keith is just
Wasn't he in the?
he's known for being in Henry Grimes's band, like in the
Gotcha.
70s or something like that. I can't even say that I know a lot about Henry Grimes. I just know that he was a well-known free jazz artist in California, I believe.
Got you.
And for some reason, Keith still to this day likes playing like super free, and he's very old now, and he's a drummer, and it would be like me, him, Corey Wilson, and Seth Painter.
Cool.
And I was just like, man, the first time I was like, I don't really know exactly what to do. And then they would just build it
Yeah.
and keep building. And then you'd actually come out with this thing that was like so crazy and so intense. And then it would just kind of end at a point when you're like all telepathically like, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was just, that was really eye-opening for me. And it's something that I would like to do more. And it's hard to like when you play with Keith today, like sometimes even Armin and I have played with him recently. He hates groove. He said, we're not grooving one bit. And I'm like, okay. And then, but we'll be like playing a standard or something. And he'll be like, can you just play this more free? And I'm like, what does that mean? And we'll figure it out. But, you know, it's like painting without restraint either. I feel like music and art and even cooking, they're like all these very just analogous thing where when it's free, I really like it because I don't have any sort of restraint whatsoever or any sort of judgment, and I can't judge it, or at least you shouldn't judge it. And then you can just keep going. So, you know, for anybody who's listening, go try it. Go try it out. Just make some sound.
Right.
Even with Sophie, my girlfriend, sometimes, you know, we'll be having a night, and she's not a musician by trade, but her parents are, and she grew up playing violin.
Okay.
And sometimes, like, there was this one time, her dad is a really well-known classical pianist, and her mom is also a really well-known violinist. And she got on the piano, I was on upright bass, and I was like, we're just gonna go totally free and just play. And it was one of the craziest things I've ever heard. Should have recorded it. We didn't do it.
Nah,
but
man,
that's the magic of it.
Exactly. I was like, it's where it needs to be now.
Yeah. So I'm just going along with what you're saying.
I'm gonna pull a 180 and it's gonna be weird. Here we go. Both your arms are chopped off. What do we do now?
You know what's really weird? Earlier in the car today, I was kind of
You were thinking about that.
I was brainstorming kind of like some things I wanted to ask you today. I thought, what if your hands were chopped off? What would you do?
You know, I think about it too because I always worry about getting carpal tunnel and not being able to play too much. I probably would just write. More than likely would write more than anything.
Be a prolific writer.
Yeah, I know, right? I'd have to get somebody to to transcribe me or whatever. But that's an interesting thought. I haven't figured that out completely. But I do think about it. I was like, man, you know, if I ever hurt myself, like, what am I gonna do? But I love teaching. I don't know how I would teach. Well, actually, I know how I would teach without playing because I don't like playing that much when I teach anyway. But unless they're really good, then I like trading. But yeah, no, I think I would mostly write and probably do some other things outside of music. I'm really into mentorship on some level. Since moving back to Houston, at least I didn't really care about it until I got here and met some of the younger guys because there's just so many talented young musicians in Houston. Like younger, we're not old, like younger than us.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
at the high school or even some like college age, like obviously like Deshaun, who plays with you guys, who's a friend. He's my barber. Thanks. Shout out to Deshaun.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to Deshaun too.
Happy birthday to him.
He's in
and
New York
he's in
right
New
now.
York
Yeah.
with Chris
And
and Pookie
Yeah.
doing an album.
Yeah. So he's one of the talented guys here. Mark Simmons, Jr., who's like literally like my little brother at this point, and Marwan and Jordan Bush, Matthew Fu, student of mine. Like there's so many. I met a guitarist on Monday. what was his name, man? I feel bad.
Was
now.
he short?
Yeah.
A little shorter?
Yeah.
Dark, short haircut?
Yeah.
I know who. Does he sing too?
Yes.
Yeah, I forget his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Man, what? I hate that I forget his name. I can't remember.
I don't know if I ever got his name, but we saw him at the Chapman and Kirby Jam session that one time we went, and he was actually singing, and he's great.
Yeah, man. So
He's like really good.
Like I said, we're young, but those guys they're literally like kind of like a generation or two below, but at least below me at PVA.
Yeah.
And it's just refreshing to see. Like I have some of them play with me like almost every week. Like Marwan plays my Saturday regular brunch gig with me every weekend. Where he was when I first moved back to town and where he is now is like night and day. Like it's actually pretty incredible. And wish them the best of luck. I think most of them are going to college next year, but if I couldn't play, I would probably try and have a little bit more hand in education than I do now. I don't necessarily aspire to teach that much, but if I couldn't play, I think I would have to live vicariously.
As long as you can play, it's not that much teaching. But if you can't
exactly.
play,
I think that's the general consensus.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
I'm realizing right now though, teaching is it's actually pretty rewarding in the sense that when you are with somebody for a little while and you help them just keep growing and actually you figure out how to teach them better. And I can't say that I like know how to teach well.
Hey, we're all figuring it out.
And I feel like I have more students now than I did back in the day, and I'm like really trying to figure out how to teach them best, especially if they're starting from zero.
Yeah.
Especially if they can't match a pitch just singing. I'm like, whoo, how are we going to do this? But I'm figuring it out, and it's really cool, and it's cool to see their progress. And if we all weren't able to play, that's a cool outlet to have.
Yeah, I mean, pay it forward somehow.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
To be honest, teaching will show you how good you are, because if you can't explain it, then you really don't know it. Right?
Yeah, you can't execute it.
So, I can tell someone to do this and that all day, but if I literally can't demonstrate it on any level, doesn't even necessarily have to be playing, but if I can't present it in a way that helps them to learn it, I probably don't know it that well myself.
Yeah.
Like, you got to teach everybody a little differently, especially if you're teaching, like, let's say jazz. Because everyone doesn't approach improvising the same way, just from an organic level. It's different people. Like, jazz is one of the more personal artistic mediums, so because it's what we're putting out there just from here and here.
Yeah.
So everyone's going to be a little bit different, and getting them to be able to express what's in their head is, that's a challenge.
Yeah, totally.
Some people sing, some people can't really sing. Some people can sing through their instruments. Some people don't like to approach it that way. Some people are more rhythmic. So now it's like, okay.
Some people are visual.
Exactly. No, that's a big thing.
That I realized recently.
Yeah, it's like our instruments are like really visual. I don't know how much bass is, at least upright.
Yeah.
Obviously, like the fretted one can be visual too, but like that's a whole completely different thing. Like I talk shapes a lot on vibes, but that doesn't resonate with everyone. Some of my students have like 2 or 3 right now. A couple of them are like really good with shapes, and then one of them specifically is a lot better orally.
How's your scat singing?
Oh, it's not great at all.
It's not great.
It's not. I mean, you guys have heard me play. Like if I'm playing and I'm vocalizing, it's like, like it's nothing. Yeah. It's nothing. I can.
Would you say that, like, other than the physical, maybe the limit of singing, do you hear ideas pretty clear, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So then, I don't know about you, but it's like, to me, the physical limitation at the end of the chain of connections, like if you're running sound, right? If your first input is really solid quality, that's really gonna be the most important thing. So like your first generator of information is your mind, your brain, and that's where the quality of music is ideally supposed to be the best before it gets to your fingers, where it can be lost in translation.
Yeah, exactly.
So you need to make sure that all the peripherals, or in other words, the digital aspects of it are hooked up. So that being said, I'm finding that I think that and I've been thinking about this for a long time, but it's like I think it's time to buckle up and actually maybe even transcribe yourself.
Yeah, no,
you
really.
dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, for sure.
What do I have inside the potential to come out? Am I even aware of that, or am I constantly limited by physically what I'm trying to do?
And that was something that was like really challenging, or still is very challenging for me to this day. Was that when I first started playing jazz, I had a lot of just technical facility on my instrument, probably from all the classical music and playing a lot of just things that weren't written for marimba or vibraphone. So you play a violin concerto on vibraphone, it's hard. And I was doing that in high school, so like by the time I kind of got to the jazz world, I had all of this facility, and I could pretty much kind of play anything that I could think up. But what that did was that would be like you're saying, what's up here is your first input. My first input would be kind of here, so like I had to like, I still right now have to like kind of take a step back and make sure that I'm not just kind of playing from muscle memory.
Right.
And funny enough, the Gifton, I saw he made an Instagram post maybe some months back, and it was like really profound to me. That's why I remember. It was probably maybe even a year ago. He was saying that he's always trying to break muscle memory and not play anything from muscle memory.
Right.
Because then he's not, I guess in a way, not really improvising. He's kind of just relying on what he already has like in his hands. And I was like, oh man, I think a lot of us probably do that. I know I do, just because it's like you see a 2-5 coming up and you're like, got it covered, like without even a second thought, you're about to play something that you may have already played and already know. And I've always had to make sure that what I'm playing is coming from my ears and not necessarily always my hands. But I think there's a healthy balance. Like sometimes music calls for you just to like flail your arms across your instrument, from like, I guess we were saying like the free aspect of it. It doesn't always have to come from up here, but if I'm trying to play melodically, I got to make sure that I'm not just hitting whatever, you know? Especially on my instrument, just because I'm pretty detached from it. It's like one of the few instruments, maybe the only instrument that you can't actually feel while you're playing it. I actually don't know. I don't know if there's another one.
Right, because it's right here, not here.
Yeah, and I'm hitting it with mallets. So, like, no part of my body, I guess my foot when I'm pedaling, but if I play marimba, like, no part of my body is touching the instrument. So, actually, funny enough, and because of that, I honestly think I hear a little bit better playing piano. And I'm not a pianist at all, but I do a lot of writing and just playing, or I probably play more stuff on piano than I do vibes. And my ideas usually, even though they're like 200 BPM slower, come out a little bit clearer on piano. And I think it's probably because I can really feel where I'm at. And I'm like, there's more of a physical connection between me and my instrument, or me and the instrument. But that's why I like vibes. There's always
I don't know what you would call it, tar vibe, key guitar vibe, or like if you can just hang off the neck.
Right.
That kind of stuff.
They do that in the marching bands, low key, with the like glockenspiels.
Right.
Now, one question I was gonna say to you, because we were saying about your hands getting chopped off, was, let's go away from music. For people who don't know you at all, what is something that, if you weren't doing music, what are you interested in?
I love sports.
You love sports?
I'm like way too emotionally invested in basketball. Like there's a game tonight, and I am
what
like,
game?
We're in the finals. Well, we're not in the finals. Houston is not. Me and my boy CP3 are in the finals, and he's been just quick thing. Like Chris Paul has been like my favorite basketball player for like my whole life.
That's awesome.
And he's never made it to the finals. This is his 16th year in the league, and he finally made it.
Oh shit!
So now I'm like we gotta win one. Yeah. We gotta, because everyone's like, oh, he's not gonna win, yada yada yada. But so like I love sports. I guess that's like my hobby right now. I still dabble playing every once in a while if I'm not too scared about hurting myself. I jammed my finger once playing basketball with some randos, and I was like, yo, I can't do this no more. But also, like I was saying, like mentorship doesn't necessarily have to be in music, but I've had some people help me out, and I do think it's important that people have older, more experienced people to like guide them in some way. Like, obviously, like, Corey Wilson's, like, great with you guys. I don't know how old Corey is, but, like, I see that relationship, and I appreciate him for that just because, like, even him in the city, Corey's one of the few guys in town that will call younger guys on his gigs. Yeah. And when I say younger, I mean, like, high school.
Yeah, 16.
Yeah, you know.
He loves playing with Marwan.
Yeah, you know, like,
really cool.
So...
Or me, like, years ago, and I was like, God damn.
Exactly. You know, and Corey, if y'all don't know Corey Wilson, go follow Corey Wilson on, I don't know if Corey Wilson has social media.
Instagram.
Corey Wilson
for sure.
Sacks.
Yeah. But phenomenal musician, great guy. Like, he'll come, if you ask him to come play somewhere, even if it's just to sit in, he'll show up. I appreciate stuff like that because, to be honest, there's a lot of people in town that don't call no young people. And I'm not even that young, and I'm like, man, you know, I get called a lot. I'm like, you know, instead of calling me, call some of the high school guys. Like, I don't necessarily need to play every $100 gig that's present in the city. Yeah. Like, I pass a lot of them on, to be honest, and it's not necessarily to prove a point or anything. It's just like spread the wealth, because nobody did that for like me and some of my friends when we were in like high school or early college either. Like, I'd come back to town and never play. I think a lot of people that I met when I moved back here in 2019 probably had no idea who I was. And I've lived in Houston almost every day of my life, you know, because there was just nowhere to play. No one was really calling. There were some other guys who were really good about it, like Daryl Levine. Daryl's great. Kyle Turner. Kyle, I don't know, he doesn't necessarily hire a lot of young guys, but he is super supportive, like even to me recently. And, you know, throughout my career in Houston. And I'm sure there are some other guys here and there. Thomas Hilton, at least Thomas has been great for me, you know, and he doesn't need to call me for anything. But then there's more people who aren't doing that, you know, so just everywhere, not even just in Houston. That's not a slight on the Houston music scene. That's just what it is. Like, Ulysses Owens could hire anybody, and I've played all over with Ulysses. I've been to China with Ulysses, like all up and down the Northeast coast. The reason I have my instrument, my current vibraphone, is because of Ulysses. That's how much money I made that he put in my pocket.
That's awesome.
And if y'all saw the vibraphone, well, you may have my first my like small vibraphone. Yeah. Like, that's what I was gigging on, and that thing is not equipped to like withstand the blows that are coming at it on like a 3-hour gig. So I would, if I couldn't really play, I would love to kind of dig into, like, you know, tap into the younger generation a little bit more. Yeah. Just because there's opportunities, and, you know, we should be trying to uplift and make sure if people really want to do this, and it's really easy to tell, like, what younger guys are super serious about this, and they just need help. You know, why are they having to like navigate a world that, you know, we've already kind of have dealt with? Obviously, we're still figuring it out. Yeah. But if we can, I personally think if I can give somebody a little bit of a shortcut, I'm going to give it to them. Yeah. Not
only that, but if you look at, I mean, I hate to get kind of real quick on you, but on the world, but if you look at the average kid right now, it seems like parenting has gone more and more out of the equation, and like technology has become the parent, or like a YouTube show has become the parent, and I'm like, what?
And like, that doesn't make any sense.
What are y'all doing? Like, the kid is 8 months old, like the kid is 3 years old, and so mentorship's becoming important, but also like making more and more human contact, because like I'm telling you right now, like the amount of young people that I see like with low social skills that are like anxiety, pilled up, I'm sorry to say, but this is the truth, you know. So yeah.
And, you know, it doesn't even have to be like you telling anybody what to do or whatever. Like
No.
I consider like guys like Marwan and Mark, who have come up in conversation, I guess right now, a few times. I don't necessarily look at them. I just look at them as friends. Like I legitimately call them my friends.
Yeah.
It just so happens that I'm like, I think I'm about 6 years older than Mark and about 8 years older than Marwan. So like, I show them a level of respect that's still like present as if I'm talking to you guys. So there's no like, they feel as though they can speak to me freely, obviously with respect still, but like they feel like, I know they feel like they can talk to me pretty much about anything, and I'm not gonna judge them. And we can also joke around. Like those dudes keep me laughing, man. Like that's one reason I call them for gigs. I'm like, those some funny dudes, man.
Marwan was straight on a stripper pole the other day.
Exactly. Just goofy,
Losing
man.
my shit.
just goofy. So like I mean I appreciate their brotherhood. So I don't necessarily like just are all constantly in their ear with advice or anything.
Yeah.
I let them make their mistakes and whatnot. If they have a question, which they do often, which I'm grateful that they feel comfortable coming to me about things, I give them my honest opinion, and I don't, if they can take it or they can't. And you know, I think they feel good about that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't necessarily want to be like nitpicking someone's life. I just kind of want to be present if needed, you know. If they have questions about college or anything else that's going on, like I've been through quite a bit to this point. I think once you get through your college degree, it's hard to not have experienced a lot of life, especially if you've moved. Like if you've gone to college out of state or really far away from your parents, you are just like a dartboard for like anxiety and all kinds of other like life things that come up because no one's really your parents aren't at your immediate disposal, so you got to figure some things out. Even though you might ask their help, like there's no way they're getting to you that same day. So
I had to lose my shit here many times right when I came here, and I went right to Cafe 4212, and did not, you know, it was very green.
Yeah,
I just had to do it.
That's what it's about, though. You know, that's what life is about. That's why I like jazz. Jazz is life, right?
Yeah.
It's like you get lost in the form, you got to figure it out. Or just in the song.
That's when them free jazz skills come into play.
Exactly, man. Hopefully everybody goes with you, or you just keep doing your own thing. You got a couple of choices.
You know, it's fucking hard. When sometimes I'll turn, let's say, you know, with Gavin, he's doing something nuts, and I'll turn the beat around. It's fucking hard to turn that back around.
Oh, bro.
It's like my brain stops working.
You know,
you gotta stop playing probably and let the beat come.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but I don't want to stop.
Hey, I mean, you figure it out. You know.
Yeah.
I know one thing that's really, and you might be describing it the same way as turning the beat around. If I start hearing something if there's like something at a fast tempo, and I start hearing beat 1 as beat 3 or beat 3 as beat 1, that destroys me. Because like that's subtle enough to where like you're still kind of together, but like it doesn't work. Like,
you're out of phase.
Yeah, you are out of phase. That's a good way to put it.
When I was playing with Ulysses, there would always be like 1 or 2 tunes that were just like stupid fast, man. Like when I was playing with him the most, we would play My Shining Hour at like breakneck tempo, man. It was just like him with the brushes and shit. I'm like, anytime you see him pick up brushes, it's just like about to be a bad like next 10 minutes. And the trios, like it was Ulysses, me, and Ruben Rogers, and those guys are so locked in that I'm just on stage, like, and I remember very vividly like not being able to tell the difference between beats 1 and 3. First off, because it was really fast.
Yeah.
And they did something that just turned me around completely, and the whole time I was like, here we go.
Help me visualize this, because I can't even really hear the melody faster because it feels like it would be awkward any faster than this. If it's any faster than that, then it's like, what the hell are we doing?
Hey, man, it's just for the blowing.
Yeah, right.
At that point. That's about how fast it would be. Yeah. And it would probably only get faster throughout.
Man, that would be wild.
Man, I gotta go into the archives and find the video of that specific concert.
And explain to the people what's the difference between the muscles you'll use, maybe you can comment on this. The muscles you use when you got to play breakneck, and the muscles you use when you kind of have to play fast, like it's actually different, right? Because I would say like just like when you're sprinting, you're using your fast twitch muscles.
Yeah.
And then when you're even jogging just kind of a medium pace, that's just like your normal muscular routine. Does that make any sense?
For sure. Like, I guess in terms of vibes,
yeah,
it becomes like.
Is it more muddy with vibes?
No. I'd say like, let's say we're playing something at a normal tempo.
Yeah.
It's more like almost full arm.
Full arm. Yeah.
Full arm, like. Your upper body shouldn't move too much, but they're like, and they tell you, when you're starting off, like it's all wrist movement, but just realistically, if you need to project sound, like a lot of the power is gonna come from your forearms.
Right.
So like at a normal tempo, you're kind of getting a good bit of like all of this, and even definitely some biceps. But once it gets fast, all of that shortens. So now,
shorten the movement.
yeah. So now it's nothing but wrist, and you kind of sacrifice some volume. Like if I'm having to play really fast, I usually switch to something.
Get your thumbs in there too a little bit.
No, honestly, because a lot of it's gonna be grip strength. Like the grip strength is the first to go.
Yeah.
That is for sure. Like, because I get tired. Like my arms and whatnot tense up all the time if I'm having to play fast and hard. So I usually switch to like harder mallets, so I don't have to dig in as much.
Right.
But I can still move. Harder mallet's also gonna be a little lighter.
I mean, same thing with guitar. I remember one day I dropped my pick. I could not find it. It was dark, and I had one pick left. It was a stubby, what's called a Wiegand pick, and there's this specific type of Wiegand pick that's designed for playing rhythm gypsy guitar. And the way that works is the pick is about this thick. It's like 7 millimeters, so it's almost a centimeter thick.
Yeah.
And it's more like a rock that you brush against the strings to get a brushing sound, like that kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of like brushes on the drums.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to emulate that, but once you try to start playing like single notes, it's like trying to play strings with a round rock. It's like pretty much impossible. So I'm like doing my best and realizing that like. The significance of your pick, despite the fact that it's about this big, is huge in that regard.
Yeah.
So same thing. It's fascinating. Like the mechanics of instruments are really quite similar, and so when kind of connecting this back to our previous topic, when the standard schooling system is so heavily based on the technicals. You're like, well, how long can we talk about the technicals? When are we going to start talking about the music?
And
right?
I guess they do that because you can talk about like the technicals in a very broad way that fits everybody.
Yeah.
Like everyone can, I guess, figure out like the technical aspect of their instrument.
Yeah.
So, but in order to talk about the music, that has to be kind of personal to each different person.
Sure. So maybe they're scared to get personal?
No, I think so, to be honest. But I guess ideally you'd be getting that in your private lessons, but I've taken enough. I've had great teachers, I will say that. But I know a bunch of people who didn't necessarily enjoy their private lesson teachers to know that they weren't necessarily getting the personal direction that they really needed. Like, I'm grateful that when I was at Columbia and then when I later went to FSU, like my teachers were more focused on what makes me opposed to trying to turn me into like Milt Jackson or Stefan or Warren Wolf or whoever. So like that was helpful to me. But there are, some of my friends just did nothing but play transcriptions like for X amount of years. And, I guess that helps, but it definitely isn't coming from your own head. And that I personally think that like transcribing is more for the technical aspect of your instrument than it is for anything creative. That's just me though. Like if I ask someone to transcribe something, it's probably usually stupid hard for my students. It's usually stupid hard and it's not on vibes. And that's just to get them around the instrument. But, like you were saying earlier, if you really want somebody to get their ears together, have them transcribe themselves.
Right.
Yeah. Like that's a whole nother ball game. And that'll tell you everything you need to know about how much you're BSing a tune.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And then you'll fix it, you know?
Yeah.
I haven't done a lot of that, but I've done it a little bit.
Me too. Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. So.
Well, Jalen, what if there was one final thing that you want to say? If, like, you're on a platform here, you've been just dying to say it.
Buy my album on Amazon. It's on all streaming platforms. This Is Me, This Is Us. Great band. Paul Cornish, Gavin Molchan, Gabriel Godoy, Gifton Jelen. Beautiful string quartet. That's all I'd say. Catch me, look at my website when it's updated. Don't know when that will be. Follow me on Instagram. There's like a few different things, but you get the point.
Jalen on the vibes.
Yep.
Armin, send us home because my camera's hot.
Well, everybody, this has been another fun episode with the amazing Jalen Baker, and we're so happy that he showed up, and we had a really great time, and we got into some deep conversations as well. So do buy his album, and also follow Houston Ensemble on all social media. Follow Jalen on all social media,
and we'll link Jalen's stuff in the description.
And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Don't forget to comment. Later.